Hey there, Carrie Rhodes here. Thank you for coming back to my paper crafting channel, and hello if you're new here. Today I am making a card that twinkles. I'm using the Twinkle Lights from Pear Blossom Press to light up this rocket. Isn't it fun? It is a new die set from Trinity Stamps, and it just called to be lit up. This is the Blast Off die set. Here you can see what it looks like. This will come on your packaging. Mine is a little more plain since I'm on the design team. I have the design team copy. So there are clouds in this set that are actually two dies you can put together, so you can adjust this to be like any size that you need for your card, which I love. So I'm making an A2 size card, so I cut my panel to 4 1/4 by 5 1/2, and then I was able to use those two dies to cut out this right here that's going to look like the rocket is just launching from that center point. So cool. Like, it's what makes this particular set. So there's the two pieces. You can use them individually if you want to cut out a little bit more, which I did. So I'm just going to cut out them one at a time and kind of create an extra little border piece that I can add on to my scene and really make that billowy cloud look. So fun. All right, so I'll cut out two of those, and I think it just adds to it to have dimension. I love it. I cut the bottom straight so I could really layer these up, and then just snip off the end like that. Like that. So now I've got my layers there. So that's really going to add to your scene when you can have layers of things kind of like these clouds, and I love how it turned out. For the rocket itself, I am using some craft foam that is glittered, and I added a rip and stick sheet to the back to turn it into a sticker. There are two different windows you can add to your rocket. I'm going to use the heart because there's a heart. I think it's so super cute. And then I'm going to add some other elements to this rocket that come with it, like the little top piece, a little bottom piece, and I have this silk paper from the 12 by 12 cardstock shop that's purple. I thought this would go so good with my rocket to give it a little added flair of metallic. So I'm going to cut out my extra elements from this paper, and then we're ready to put all the things together. So I am just going to use these kind of like they're stickers and stick them down because I added rip and stick sheets to both. So when you die cut out the heart or the circle window, you're going to get a frame and the fallout piece. You can just save the fallout piece and add it in if you want, or you can do a separate color on the inside of your heart, which is what I'm going to do to make it look more like a window. So I've got all my parts and pieces there, and here's that inner window part that I die cut from vellum, but I also put the rip and stick sheet on the back of the vellum to turn it into a sticker, which I love. Okay, so you can see how all of these pieces go together as I'm showing you right now. And they just are a breeze to put together because they fit right on that die cut. And then these little like feet, yeah, you're going to have one for each side and one for the center. That one might not be as obvious as to where it goes. Now, if you see me also adding liquid glue, even though I had rip and stick sheet on the back, that's because I might want to be able to wiggle it around. Or also, I am sticking this on top of glittered surface, so I want to make sure it really sticks down where I want it to go and stay there. But I really like double adhesive, so I do this a lot where I have dry adhesive and wet adhesive. It's just how I roll. All right, so there is the vellum piece. I added that sticker to the back, and then I can add that right in the middle of my window. It's got a frame, it's got the inner piece. I think it's perfect. For the flame, there are actually 3 layers, and I love that. It really adds to the realism or the character of it. I die cut these from some red, orange, and yellow cardstock, but I'm also going to give them a little bit more depth by adding some marker to this. So each of those layers is going to kind of be two-toned, and I think that really makes it stand out. So then we can layer these up. I'm going to have the red be the biggest part of my flame, and then it's going to get brighter as you go towards the center. It'll end with yellow. So I'll layer these up, and you just line them up right at the top. They have a flush edge, and that will line up perfectly with that bottom part of the rocket. Isn't that cool? Oh, it's so fancy. Love it. All right, so this is going to go not here. I actually moved it down and glued it to that little leg of the rocket. Remember, I am lighting this up. So I needed it to be down and not hidden. All right, so for the white highlights on my card, I'm using this white acrylic pen from Sharpie. I got to try these out at Creativation. They actually let me take a bag of them, and I think they're super fun, and it has a really fine tip, and so they're really easy to make white highlights even on glitter paper. So loving that. I will put a link for these markers in the description box for you so you can check them out yourself if you're interested. Okay, I am shading this with a new tool at the Trinity stamp shop. Well, it's soon to be released. It's called the Shading Sidekick. So if you love the Trinity stamp blending buddy brushes, which I totally do, then you might like these tools as well. It's going to give you a little smaller brush, so it's a little bit easier to do small sections or edges of things like this. I am loving it. I've been using it for a little while now, and I'm excited that these will be coming to the shop soon. Okay, so for my background, I decided let's go with that cloud theme. So here's that blending buddy brush. If you haven't seen it before, I use them all the time because it is my favorite blending brush. It has a short handle that you can really hold it where you need to hold it, so you can get pressure right on that brush, which is a very dense bristle brush with very soft bristles, and it's just easy to control and get a big area. For my splatter, I am adding some ink on 3 Pixie dust, and that is just going to give me a nice shimmer. I've got some bigger droplets, and here I'm creating some smaller droplets, so that's going to give me a lot of sparkle and shine, especially when this card is lit up. So let's go ahead and start putting all the things together. First is the bottom layer of my clouds. I don't know if you can call them clouds when it's like coming out of the rocket, right? It's not really a cloud. It's more of like, I don't even know, smoke? You know what it is. Okay, so I'm always like to kind of lay my things out as I go to make sure everything's going where I want it to go in the end. So that's why you'll see me like lay the rocket on there and things like that. So I've got my second layer here, and then I'll bring in my third layer, which everything is getting that little bit of dusting. Actually, the original ink on that brush is black soot, but I didn't add any ink to the brush. I'm just using what is on there, so it's a kind of a gray color, but I think it really plays into the scene that I'm creating here. So there's the third layer. I love this layered look. Didn't it turn out great? Yeah. Okay, so we've got that. I'm trimming off any excess. I would rather trim off excess than have my piece be a little bit too small. So these are the Twinkle Lights from Pear Blossom Press. This is a 2-pack, so I've got 2, one to use now, one to use later. And each of these has 3 lights on the end, which is so fun. It really adds that twinkle look. So each one of those lights is going to go off at a different time, which gives you that twinkle effect. And there's so many fun ways you could use this. I've already done a video with a strawberry galaxy and a cow in the strawberry Milky Way. And I use a twinkle light on the sign that says Milky Way. It's like a marquee sign. So that's another cool way you can do that. I will link that video for you at the end of this one and at the bottom of the screen or in the description box, so you can go check that out. So for the lights, you need somewhere that says push so that the recipient knows to push the button, which will then activate the lights. I already added the battery, which is included, and I am now going to lay out my rocket and put a little pencil mark for that flame so I can decide where I want the lights to go. That just helps me keep it within the frame of my image. So I added some super strong tape runner there, and I'm just sticking these down to the front of the card. Now, a lot of times I put the lights on the back of the card and I kind of poke a hole through, but my light pack, my little battery pack there and button is actually going to stick to the back of my rocket. So now I can just play with this. I'm bringing the rocket back in so you can see there when I am sticking or lighting it up that it's going to stay behind the flame. I have a little piece of clear packing tape here that I'm going to use to tape down those lights. A lot of times I just use my like yellow tape that I use to tape down my dies, but if you looked at this from the side, I didn't want you to be able to see the tape there. So clear tape it was. Now I am just sticking this battery pack onto my rocket because remember the back of it I had turned into a sticker, it had that rip and stick sheet on the back. So I'm just sticking it on there. Then I need to make sure and hide the wires. You don't want them to be seen, so I can also stick those down to the back of the rocket. And then I just need some adhesive on the edges around the light. So you need some double thick foam tape or foam tape that is thick. I'm using the world's best foam tape from Pear Blossom Press. I just happen to know that right now that tape is sold out. So if you can find it maybe at scrapbook.com, you can look there, or your other favorite retailer might still have some. Okay, so here you can see that the rocket is stuck down in place. When I push the word push, the lights flicker. So it really gives you that kind of realistic vibe from the flames. All right, I am adding a sentiment, which also is in this blast off die set, and it says blast off. Again, I used rip and stick sheets on the back to turn my letters into stickers, and I absolutely love it when the cardstock sticks in the die. I can lay the die down right on my paper where I want the sentiment to go and push the letters out with my pickup tool, and a lot of times it works, but the backing did not come off the letter B, and I hadn't noticed that. I also find it super easy to pull out those middle pieces when I do this. They don't get pressed on when I'm pressing down on the die because the die is open in that area. So it works out pretty good if you're lucky enough to have it stick in the die. So it says blast off, and then, by the way, the word push is from the Papercrafting Magic stamp set from Trinity Stamps. I am now adding some bling. This is a new embellishment mix. Yeah, I don't remember the name, but I'm going to link it for you in the description box below. It's the only embellishments I use on this card. And it has a mix of these baubles that are almost iridescent and neon at the same time. And then it's got little tiny stars. It's got some gems. It's like a really cool mix. So I'm going to put some of all of that on my card because I love embellishment, and the colors seem to fit really well with my purple rocket. So I'm picking them up with my pickup tool and setting them down onto the dot of glue I already placed onto my card. And then I can just randomly add those in for that fun effect. Isn't that a cute card? I like it, but you know, I'm partial. So there's my Twinkle Light Up card. Now you can use the twinkle lights in so many ways. They look great in a jack-o'-lantern. They look great as lights on candles, on cake. I mean, there's so many ways you could use these. Now I brought back in my embellishments because I wanted to put one at the very tip top of the rocket there on that point. So there it is. Now all I need to do is add this to my A2 size card, which I am using black, which gives me another opportunity to use those Sharpie markers on the inside, or also I could put a panel in there, maybe in purple, and then I could have a fun little way to write my message. So there is my Twinkle Light card. If you want to see the other Twinkle Light card I made, the Strawberry Galaxy, it's super cute. That is linked for you to watch right after this video. And if you want to see more of some outer space themed projects, I have a ton on my channel from the latest release at Trinity Stamps. But stay tuned, because on July 17th, Trinity Stamps has a brand new release that I'm super excited about. So I'll see you all again very soon with a new paper crafting video. Bye.